Hello and welcome along once again to another edition of the Rebel White Ball, and I suppose we should start by expressing our gratitude that we got this far to endeavour to produce another edition. Before we talk about everything that's going to happen this weekend, or try and talk about it, I suppose a word about the magnificent Cork Championships that have happened in the past 9 weeks. We're nearly 10 weeks now, but over a 9-week period. And what an incredible, we had 222 matches, 72 venues, 67 referees. And if you're interested in goals and points, 5,500 points, and I think it was 5,550 goals and 6,557 points. And, I was just reflecting on that during the week, the incredible amount of enjoyment from those matches, the incredible voluntary input by so many. If you just look at the host clubs alone and see what's involved in hosting matches and the work of club officers, the work of club management, and okay, there might be a few fellas here and there getting a few bob for this in terms of paid administration and outside coaches, but maybe other than that, if you like, it's just been incredible. And I'm pretty annoyed, I must say, that the Rules Advisory Group in the GA in Croke Park are of the opinion that the Cork Premier Senior Championships are in contravention of their rules, because they have a setup whereby you can't have more than 16 teams in your Premier Senior Championship, which in your main championships or any championship, which is probably fair enough, 16 club teams. But the way Cork have done it, they're arguing like they're probably Cork have 12 club teams, and the number of divisions and colleges, that can vary from football hurling, but it does exceed 16. But the way Cork have done it, and also I appreciate all of this, that you have to have guidelines, rules and regulations, but sometimes guidelines, rules and regulations are just squeezed the independence out of bodies. And I think I said somewhere earlier in the week about our good friends across the pond leaving the EU. I would imagine that some of them were guided by the fact that all these rules and regulations and constraints that have come into our lives, okay, there's massive good, of course, but maybe some of them have just squeezed any sort of a notion that we're an independent nation. But leave all that aside, I think in terms of Cork, the fact that the divisional teams have been part of tradition, so I think they could seriously mind their own business. It's an incredible championship in Cork, and if that's the only problem the GA have, I'd be absolutely delighted about that. So anyway, we now come to the start of, if you call it the harvesting month, whereby every weekend, well, now it's probably started already, but every weekend from now until maybe Christmas, there'll be clubs bringing home trophies into their parishes, into their communities, be they rural or urban. And I think they're magnificent events. And we're going to have two of them this weekend in terms of the hurling championships in Cork. The first one is the 2 man on Sunday, 1 at 2 and 1 at 4. And the way this is done over the Sundays, 2 and 4, I think is excellent timing as well. The first one is the Intermediate A Hurling Championship between Clydove, which is a mid-Cork club, and down in East Cork, Dungourney. Now, trying to predict somebody was talking to me who's into a little bit of trying to clean out the bookies, and I was going to say one of the ways of doing this, I wish we knew one of the ways to do it, there is no way. But anyway, doing these accumulators, and he's of the opinion now, there's no value in Cork. Jump out of town. And when you have no value, when your competitions have no value to accumulator betters, I'm probably not using the right term, it means you have a great championship, right? So, this, as I mentioned, Dungourney themselves and Clydove, I think they met back in 2015 in a junior hurling championship final, and after replay, it was won by the East Cork side. They're now operating at this level, and they met in the league, they met in the group stages, and I think Clydove won by 2 points on that occasion. Again, nothing between them. So, trying to predict which club are going to win it, I honestly don't know. If you look at if you look at Dungourney, they have improved, I think, insofar as that Jack Leahy is now a main player for them. This is the Cork. I suppose he was Cork's main minor player last year, was it? And one minor hurler of the year, which is a great honour. Then they have another man who does a lot of scoring for them is Ryan Dennehy, Shane Hegarty, and Niall Motherway at centre back. These are main players, and a couple of players, big players like this at this level, can take this over the line. But the Mid-Cork club, who are pro-tradition hurling now, they will have a number of, there's a dual element here because they're playing football with Kilmurray. The Verling brothers are going to be big operators up on the forward line. Mark and Brian. Owen Clifford is their captain from left half back, usually in that position. Fabulous player as well. And then you have William Ahern and Aidan Murphy. So 2 o'clock, and want to be some occasion for both of those communities. The very fact, and this applies to everybody, to be in a county final, everybody, this is where you get your people in there. And okay, look, there'll be one crowd coming home disappointed unless, of course, there's going to be a draw. And if there is, there's no such thing as extra time or penalties. The second game, would you believe it, is also a repeat of an earlier run game between Father O'Neill's from East Cork and Corsie Rovers, who will be representing the Wild Atlantic Way and West Cork in this championship. When they met in Ovens, they produced an absolute thriller, which was won by 7 points in the end by the favourites, Father O'Neill's. And Father O'Neill's, who've been in this final for the last 2 years, beaten by Charleville, first of all in 2020, and there was with that Charleville, an excellent team, beaten in by Kentucky last year, and they were dogged by injuries. Their main man Declan Dalton, and he will be their main player on Sunday. He operates out kind of around midfield, centre forward. He can whip them over for any angle and from freeze. And he was injured, and so too was Ger Melrick. I know that Ger probably played a bit of a part, but they are now in full fettle. Niall O'Halloran, who is a West Cork man, if you like, is their coach, and a very, very successful coach, having won 2 counties already with Éire Óg and Bandon. So they go into his favourites. Billy Dunn, their corner forward, is a most prolific and stylish goal scorer. He got a goal that day against Corsie Rovers, which was absolutely fabulous. But is it one-way traffic? Far, far from it. This is a solid Corsie Rovers team that came from behind to win last year's Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship. The aim, as I said earlier, was to get out of the group, and here they are, unbelievably so, in another final. They're a hardened group of players. They reflect a lot of history in their long traditions that they have in that neck of the woods, and I think they bring a huge amount to this in terms of scoring alone. Stephen Nine, their goalkeeper, I think is about 7 points. And then you've guys up in the forwards like Tygo Sullivan, who's the main man the last day out against Father O'Neill's. And then you have individuals like Richard Sweetham, Sean Toomey, and Fergus Lorton is an outstanding defender, and there are many others obviously. But somebody told me that they heard that Sean Toomey hurt his finger, damaged his finger early in the game before he got the 4 goals. In the match against Fermoy, and somebody else was listening to the conversation, and Morris implied that a broken finger to a Corsie Rovers fellas would be like a slight sniffle to the rest of us. So anyway, look, I'm so looking forward to those finals, and the best of luck to all 4 teams in it. Now, a little trip to the divisions, and 'tis junior hurling time, and some of the divisions are at final, some of them have played, and the West Cork division are still at quarter-final stage, and they're going to be under some pressure to get finished for county board deadlines. Anyway, the Avondhu one is not until Sunday week. I'm a bit surprised about 2 things here. First of all, that is played on Sunday the same day as the county final. Seemingly they couldn't get a venue on the previous Saturday, the county senior hurling final I'm talking about now. And I'm also surprised that, I thought it might be on this week, Kilshannig. It's between Kilshannig and Church-on Gales. None of these 2 have won these championships, so it's huge, yeah. But the fact that Kilshannig are in a football final on the 23rd, But anyway, that's that one out of the way, if you like. Carrickdown, their final is on Sunday at 4:30 in Mananbridge between two second teams, Valley Rovers and Ballymartle. I think Ballymartle will probably be the better side on that one. Obviously, hope I'm wrong there. Then in Imokilly at 4 o'clock in Carricktool, you have, I suppose, an unusual pairing, if you wish, between the two top teams this year in it, and that's Cove and Erin's Own. They met last year and Erin's Own won that game. They met in the semi-final. Erin's Own, they were disappointed when they lost to St. Eaton in the final. But for Cove, I suppose, look, the neutrals would love to see them win it. They haven't won it since 1985, and then it would mean it would be the first time in their history, if they did win that famous James E. Kelleher trophy, that they would have won the double. And you know, like, Cove has kind of slipped off our radar for a while, but the great work has been done at under 8 level. It's now, I think, it's now bearing fruit there. In Carbery, Ballinascarty and Newstown are straight through to the semi-final, but there's 2 quarter-finals this Sunday, both on at 3:30, and at the wonderful pitch in Ahiol, you have Clonakilty and St. Mary's, and like, both of them are, you know, I suppose maybe St. Mary's, I was going to say, more of a dual club. I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. But the fact that Clonakilty are out of the scene of football and have been for a while, a lot of their senior footballers play hurling. But the only time really that they can make ground is if their footballers are on a sabbatical, which is the case now. So they'll probably be the slight favourites to win that one. And then in Ballinaccarriga, another great venue, you have Dorney's and St. James's, and the Mountainy men they're certainly a rising big time. They're the West Cork Junior Football Champions, and now they're at this stage of the hurling. In Muskerry, it's tomorrow night. The first semi-final is on between Ballinora and Enniscarry. You'd fancy Ballinora. They've been competing well at this level of hurling. And then on Saturday afternoon, you have the match between Gwynedd and Éireog, and obviously it's Gwynedd's first team against Éireog's second team. And finally, in the City Division, there's a big dual involvement here as well. It's 2:30 on Sunday in their own pitch in Ballinlough, and that's the two teams that are in opposition there are Brian Dillon's and Nemo Rangers, and I don't know how many of these Nemo Rangers players are in are dual players, but there's quite an amount of them. And remember, this is Nemo Rangers' centenary year. One day love to win that hurling championship and to win the Cork Premier Senior Football Championship. But the Cumberland Borinefra men may have something to say about that, and we will be talking about it on another occasion. Now, to Camogie, and the Senior Championship, I think, has been fabulous this year for them. Obviously, it doesn't get the same publicity or anything like it in terms of the men's games, but they're at semi-final stage, and the 2 games are being played in Éireog. I think there is some surface damage to their pitch in Castle Road, so they're on Sunday at 1 o'clock, isn't it? At 2 o'clock and what can I see now? I need to get that right. 1 o'clock, sorry, and 4 o'clock, and the first one is between Enniscarry and Sars. And again, there's no great value for my bookie friend here. The fact that Sars beat, I thought, a fancied course here overside. I think I might give them the nod, but remember, Enniscarry they won the final last year. They represented Cork Munster. They won it the year before. So they're, again, a very seasoned team. It should be a really good match, as will the all-city clash between St. Finbarr's. Many people's fancy for this championship. They have some excellent players. But they're playing Shandoon, who are the county champions, and you know, like, it's a while since we got a divisional side we need. Well, they won't want to relinquish it, and certainly they won't want to relinquish it, like, you know, the girls that play in the city clubs. They won't want to relinquish it to another city club, St. Finbarr's. And then the intermediate one, which is like all championships, a fabulous one, and the 2 semi-finals, and that are on Saturday, 2 o'clock in Clove, 4 o'clock in Bantier. It's an all-city clash at 2 o'clock between Blackrock and Piershig, and obviously some of these players will be playing the following day. I have a slight fancy for Blackrock there, Ahabullock and Ballyhay, and to say that you'd favour one of these over the other. These are 2 committed sides who've been operating at the high level at this end of it. I just have maybe a slight fancy for for the mid-Cork team. Now, in ladies football, we had last week the county finals, and again the most competitive one was the intermediate one. The junior was a good game as well. The senior one, well, RARO getting a bit nearer to Monaby, and that's the question to be asked, but that for another day. There are 4 Cork clubs out on the Munster campaign, and of course the big one is in Monaby at 1 o'clock. Ballymacarbery from Waterford. This is a team that has won 41. Now there's value there for betting. 41 consecutive Waterford championships. What do you say about that? I honestly don't know. But anyway, and they're made up of, like all probably rural teams of sisters, Ryans, the McGraths and the Walls, but they'll be coming up with against a team that has a fair shot at their own sisters. Monaby, I fancy Monaby, but that could be a really good one. Then the other games, in the Senior B, you have Clonmel Commercials taking on Fermoy. Now that competition doesn't go further than Munster, as far as I know. So I honestly don't know who's going to win that one. The intermediate championship, I do fancy Castlehaven when they go to Waterford on Sunday, and it's going to be it should be competitive enough match against Erin's Own. That's the name of the club down there. They'll have a few Camogie players in operation with them. And then Nevervaughan, I think their game, the rest of them are 1 o'clock. Their game is at 2 o'clock at home, where they welcome Mike Harkey Boris. Now, if history teaches anything, last year the Cork clubs didn't do that well in these junior and intermediate championships. So it's not a foregone conclusion because they're a Cork team. And like how things have changed, if you like, in terms of ladies football at national level, the All-Star nominations were announced during the week, and this is a great way of doing it. Like, I mean, it raised the profile of the game, it gives them a bit of publicity, and for the people that are nominated is a great honour. And Cork had 2 nominations in football. Now, you know, that would have been much higher in past years, and well done to the 2 girls that were selected. Roisin Phelan at one end of the field from Ahada, and at the other end Darren O'Sullivan. In the Camogie, things were much better, if you like, in that you had 10 Cork players. Amy Lee from the Pearshing, one of the new players coming to the side, and replacing Aoife Murray. Isn't that great confidence for her? And from East Cork, or West Cork I should say, the most westerly lady to get an All-Star nomination, Libby Coppinger from St. Columns, my apologies. Then you've the next 2 East Cork girls saying 2 Lauras, Tracy from Killa and Laura Hayes from St. Catherine's. Aisling Thompson, I don't know how many All-Stars she's got, how many nominations, but she's got a lot of them from Milford. And then we mentioned the Atlantic Way earlier on about Corsi Rose. Well, they had the honour of being having 2 players like Killa nominated, because Hannah Looney was also nominated from Killa, and Saoirse McCarthy and Fiona Keating. And then City clubs, Katrina Mackey from Douglas and Amy O'Connor. So that's kind of our Camogie and ladies football. 2 appointments that were made during the week for the Cork minor team for next year. My God, how things have changed in this. I remember one time, if you wanted to become a Cork minor selector, if you could get somebody to canvass for you, it was selected at board meetings on a Tuesday night. End of, hands up. And I remember the following night, it used to be published in the Echo with the number of votes that you got. Things have moved on, and it's now a succession plan in place. And this year again, they put the 2 people who were in charge of last year's Cork under 16 team. That's Frankie Murphy, as they call him, from the Erin's Own club, from SARS club. Oh my God, don't get those 2 Kieran's mixed up. And he's a lot of experience. Now, the other person selected for the football, some of you may not know him, Ray O'Mahony. He's attached to the Aero club. He's originally a Dub, and played with Kilmacud and coached up that came down here. It's very important that you know stuff like this. He was at one stage a Castlehaven selector, which I said, how is this fella? Kilmacud and now living Aero. But anyway, he's married to Karen Limerick, who was David Limerick's sister, who was a player and selected with at Castlehaven, and he was brought in there at one stage. But anyway, he was involved with last year's under-16 team, and he's considered a really, really good man at this job. So before this, you know, in some counties they go for high-profile former inter-county players, and I'm not going to say that they were wrong or right to do that, but in Cork this is the way it's done. And look, if it's done properly at underage level, why not give these people their chance? Look, isn't it a thankless, voluntary job? But anyway, to Kieran and to Ray, we wish them the very best of luck. Anyway, that's that. Now we move on to those of you who are followers of soccer, and of course there was Champions League action during the week. Tuesday night, the big game of course was Liverpool back on winning ways after coming back to draw on Saturday, and of course when they beat Rangers, I know that made a lot of, I think, rivalries were put aside for a while. And then you had Man City last night again, and it's all about one guy now. If you want to feel knowledgeable about soccer, just ask how did Erling get on today. Did he nod in another few goals? His 19 goals got in 11 games. He got 2 last night. He got a hat-trick against Manchester United. Thought he'd get away with it without having talk about that. He's 3 hat-tricks in 8 games, and seemingly Michael Owen before him was the last fella that achieved that. Only took him 48 games to achieve it. This guy is an absolute scoring machine. They reckon he'll break all sorts of records. Of course, he's young in his career. Well, he scored a record number of Premier goals in a season. I think Mo Salah has that record at the moment. But anyway, it's back to tonight Arsenal and Man United play in the Europa League. But Saturday, or the weekend, as we have the Premier League, and 3 games that we're going to start that are played on Saturday will be Chelsea, who are doing well under Graham Potter. They had a win during the week as well, and they take on Wolves. They won last weekend. Wolves struggling big time. Man City, to know how did Erling, we'll see how many goals he gets against Southampton. Brighton will take on Spurs, and of course Spurs fans, they'll be disappointed about last week's performance when they were beaten by Arsenal. That's torture for them. They drew during the week in the Champions League. Then on Sunday, Crystal Palace take on Leeds, Arsenal and Liverpool. It should be kind of an entertaining one for people. And Everton and Man United. Now I was going to say that I mentioned the Europa League. In terms of the Champions League, the Europa League is kind of the Tolchin Cup of that. And then on Monday, Monday night, Steve Cooper, the Nottingham Forest manager, I'd say he'd be lucky man if he's in charge by Monday night. Things have gone pear-shaped. 5 matches in a row they've lost, but they'll be playing Aston Villa, and we'll have to see how they get on there. Cork City are back in action. Now they've the League One themselves in Cove, and Cove have there's no relegation in this. They're trying to get teams to play in this Division 1. But at the bottom of the pile are Cove Ramblers. Cork City play Wexford tomorrow night, and Cove Ramblers play Longford Town. I think this is probably the third last team of it. And finally, to the European, the Rugby League, I should say, the URC, the United Rugby Championship. I'm going to call it the European Championships. Sure, it is that in a way. But anyway, all over the place today. Munster have started poorly enough, but they did win last week against Seabray after losing their first 2 games, and they lost the 2 post-season games as well. Not the pre-season games, pre-season game, but they go to Galway on Friday night to play in the new 4G pitch at the showgrounds. Now, they take on Connacht, and Connacht haven't won a match. They've lost all of their 3. So it's going to be an interesting game insofar as that. See, Graham Rowntree now is the manager, as you know, at Munster, and seemingly it's taken them a while to bed into the new style of rugby. And one of the coaches during the week, my name escapes me, and said, look, the Rome wasn't built in a day. You always feel when you have to resort to that saying that you're in a small bit of trouble. But anyway, Shin, Scalele. Anyway, look, all the best to all of you. thanks again for tuning this way, and until the next time, take care.